and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, the election fever is in full swing with Uttarakhand and Goa having actually voted, and Uttar Pradesh is in the middle of it. The third phase is around the corner. But the most interesting election, and of course, there is elections in Manipur also that are due. But we are going to be taking a look. Today's special focus will be on the other elections, but a special look on the elections in Punjab, because that is a state that is really becoming high voltage, as exciting as, usually Uttar Pradesh is. Usually Punjab is one way or the other. It's always been Akalis, BJP versus the Congress. But now there are new players on the horizon. The Aam Aadmi Party has once again appeared, and this time it looks as if it is serious in asking the voters, "Ik mauka Kejriwal." No, voters seem to be anecdotally saying that, yes, we are willing to give a chance to a new person. We are fed up of the old combinations. But will the Aam Aadmi Party sweep Punjab, or will it be a hung house? The BJP, what role will it play? Because it's the first time the Akali Dal and the BJP are not voting together. Traditionally, the Dera vote does go with the BJP, but the BJP can also direct the vote a certain way, as it did in 2017 when it actually got its voters to vote against the Aam Aadmi Party to ensure a swing in the favor of the Congress. So nothing is certain till the votes are in. That's the big lesson from the last election. But to discuss the various possibilities, combination, and also what's happening in the third phase in Uttar Pradesh, is the Gathbandhan, does it have an edge as it had in the first two? Joining me on the show today is Yashwant Deshmukh. He is the founding editor of Sea Voter and a very well-known psephologist. We have Ramneek Singh Mann. He's an author and he's a political commentator and analyst. Chandar Suther Dogra, she is an author. She's written a senior journalist and an author who's written some very interesting books on honor killings and also the missing soldiers during the wars with Pakistan. And Badri Narayan, author, Republic of Hindutva, and a political scientist. Yashwantji, first, I'll begin with you because I was very fascinated by one of your comments recently saying that you can expect even a Maharashtra in Punjab. Don't take anything for granted. So what is it that you're hearing? What are your polls saying? What is your feedback?
Well, that comment was, when our common friend Neerja Chaudhary, she did analyze on together with me that, that we were together on a show. She said that there is a possibility, what will if it hung? And, will the Aam Aadmi Party Congress go together just like they went in Delhi? Or can it open up Akali plus Aam Aadmi Party combination if the Badals become the kingmaker? So I just said that, why are you ruling out the possibility of Maharashtra? Because if you have a hung assembly, then I see everybody getting together just in order to stop the Aam Aadmi Party. That is much more clearer way to deal. And probably if Congress and Akalis, they get about 30 each, or in the range of 30 each, there is very much a possibility of Akali and Congress government, basically coming together just to stop Aam Aadmi Party. So I am very clear on one thing, Priya, that if Aam Aadmi Party wishes to form the government in Punjab, they have to cross the majority. If they will fall short by even couple of seats, I sense everybody is going to gang up and, go against them. That's what the situation on the ground is. That's how they are placed. And that is largely because of the fact that nobody is sure about them, the Congress and the Akalis both fear that they have been in power for way too long. Way too many files might get opened if the law and order goes completely in the hand of Aam Aadmi Party government. So they have a lot to fear in that way. This is why they will never allow. And of course, that that the BJP positioning on that, they would not actually like Arvind Kejriwal to be taken. They would like Arvind Kejriwal to grow as an alternative of Rahul Gandhi and the Congress to the point that they cut the Congress votes and make it easy for the BJP, but not to cross a threshold where they actually start gaining momentum at the national level as a serious alternative as well. So I don't see any political party in Punjab being comfortable thinking that Aam Aadmi Party is getting into power. And this is why my comment that anything and everything can happen if they fall short of majority. That includes a very serious possibility of Maharashtra getting repeated in Punjab.
Okay. Ramneek Singh, what is your take on the ground? Who is ahead? Are you also thinking, I'm thinking there's a hung house. I haven't yet asked Ashwantji what his prediction is. But what are you hearing, Ramneek ji?
It is definitely heading in the direction of a hung house. But Aam Aadmi Party still has an edge over the Congress in this election. And Yashwantji rightly said that none of the traditional political parties would want Aam Aadmi Party to come into power in Punjab. And a 2017 repeat is not possible this time around is because the BJP and the RSS shifted their cadre-based votes in favor of Captain Amrinder Singh in 2017 just to stop the Aam Aadmi Party. But this time, BJP itself, they are contesting the elections. And yes, it is true that the Dera votes generally fall in favor of the BJP. But this time, I feel that if all of these votes fall in favor of the BJP, it is not going to help the BJP or any other party, but it's eventually going to help the Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party will gain from the Dera votes falling in favor of the BJP. So if this has to be done in a certain manner to stop the Aam Aadmi Party, the strategic vote transfer has to be on seat-to-seat basis, candidate-to-candidate basis. That is what is required. It's not that you gain a larger chunk of vote share and eventually you can claim victory in numbers of vote share, in percentage of vote share, and you eventually lose the election to the Aam Aadmi Party. So this is where Yashwantji is right, but I would, sorry Yashwantji, would not agree with you that Akalis and the Congress would ever come together to form government in Punjab. That maybe, yes, politics is the art of possible. That may be a very, very, very far-fetched dream because, in non-traditional alliances, one of the alliance partner would eventually fade away and finish off. You've seen the example of Congress party supporting the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi assembly elections, and then the Congress party is simply wiped out from Delhi. They haven't been able to win a single seat in Delhi in 2 consecutive elections. So a similar situation is waiting for the Congress party in Punjab in case they choose to either take support or give support to the Aam Aadmi Party. I don't see Aam Aadmi Party giving support to any party. They would much rather sit in the opposition than to take to give somebody else a support. They would want a stake in the governance, and they would want their member to become the chief minister. So a similar situation is with the Congress party. Whenever you broker a deal, I mean, you don't want to see you don't want to see Sukhbir Badal being a deputy chief minister to Channi or vice versa, or Sukhbir Badal being the chief minister and Sidhu being the deputy chief minister. That's not going to work out. So that possibility, I think, is not existent. Well,
Kejriwal and Sidhu might work out if Kejriwal is CM.
How many people Sidhu will able to get along with him? That's more important. Then he will have to break the party. That's more important. And why would let's say there is a limit of number of ministers in Punjab? So the number of ministers in Punjab can be probably 16. So how many ministers are you going to make from the breakaway factions? How many chairmen are you going to appoint politically? I mean, how would you adjust so many people? But then again, you can't give a clean government thereafter. When you compromise with people and get their support, it's not always a one-time settlement that eventually money plays its role. But it's not going to be a one-time settlement. It's going to be a regular affair, and then you'll not be able to give a clean government.
Good arguments. Chandrasudha, what is your first reaction on the ground? What is happening? Where do you see the election going?
Well, I think the Aam Aadmi Party is certainly ahead of all the others. And if what we are seeing, that the wave is strong enough, I think it can clear the finishing line and get a complete majority on its own. But then we still don't know, there's a lot of opposition, as Yashwantji said. Absolutely correct. Everyone is trying to stop the Aam Aadmi Party. And if we look at the developments of the last few days, particularly this charge of Arvind Kejriwal being close to Khalistanis, now it's come from 2 sources. It's come from the Congress as well as from Kumar Vishwas, who we all know is close to the BJP camp nowadays. So both these parties are basically saying the same thing. And Charanjit Channi, as a chief minister, even wrote to Amit Shah, purportedly with a letter from the Sikhs for Justice saying that, well, our Sikhs for Justice is offering support to Kejriwal and Kejriwal is accepting that support. It's another matter that the Sikhs for Justice has actually denied it and said that this is a fake letter. But But that
But Amit Shah is agreeing to probe it. That's
yes, Amit Shah is agreeing to probe it. So you can see that the Congress and the BJP, they're all joining hands in this venture. And of course, releasing Dera Sacha Sauda's head, Ram Rahim, right on the eve of the elections is also very, very significant, which way he sways the Dalit votes. But the feel from the ground is that it's not as if, the Dalit votes will go to the BJP camp, because the Dalits in the Malwa are quite close to the Aam Aadmi Party. And I think that the Dalit vote in Malwa will get split between the Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. But I would agree with what Ramneek ji is saying, that the Dera is not really looking at an en masse support for the BJP. It's not telling its cadre something like that. It is looking at seat-wise selection, and because they have asked their cadres to give them the position in every seat, and that is, I think, how they will take a decision. So I think they will also ask their cadres to vote strategically in the Malwa belt, because that is crucial. That's the Aam Aadmi Party's stronghold, and that's where they have to be stopped, if at all. Of course, the party is doing extremely well in Majha and Doaba too. Extremely well, I mean, relatively much better than last time, because it hardly got anything there. It drew a blank in in the Majha belt and got just 2 seats in Doaba last time. But Majha, what we are hearing now is that there is a huge vote for change. And change, as we know, it's just the Aam Aadmi Party which has positioned itself as an agent of change. The Charanjit Channi combination of him and Navjot Sidhu was used by the Congress after they got rid of Amrinder Singh. They tried to project that, yes, this is also change and that this is our kind of change, but it apparently is not cutting much ice with the voters, because the voters are not looking at the new faces that the Congress has fielded. They're not looking at them as agents of change, because Charanjit Channi is presently tainted because of the allegations of him being...
Okay, I'll quickly get Badri Narayan ji also before we take a break. The Dalit vote, the Congress thought that by making Dalit Sikh chief minister, they would get the Dalit vote. But now, the Dera factors also come in, and Aam Aadmi Party is also claiming it. Where do you see that going?
Priya, see, the dynamics of Dalit vote in Punjab is very interesting. Punjab has the highest Dalit population in all over the country. 31% is estimated, but people say, those who understand the Punjab society, that is around 35%. Now, we don't have exact census. So, but there is Dalit vote is not homogeneous in Punjab. No, it's very heterogeneous and divided in 2 parts, like Mazhabi, Balmikis, and then the Chamas, the Jato kind of community in Punjab. So, and the population-wise, this Mazhabi Balmikis are higher than this Channi chunk, the Ramdasiya chunk. So, in that situation, and most of the time, they took 2 different positions, opposite positions. But this time, there is a hope in the Congress camp and the scholars, those who are supporting Congress in their own ways, that because of Dalitness, the Dalitness as an agenda of politics, maybe some % of the vote of the Mazhabis, Balmikis will come towards Congress. Then their situation must be better. But most of the people, those who see the election rationally, they see that there is not much possibility about it. Some vote of the Mazhabis, Balmikis may come towards Congress because of the Channi as a Dalit face of the Congress, but not many. And so that's the situation of the Dalit votes in Punjab politically.
Well, the last poll that we released before the deadline, it had Aam Aadmi Party in the pole position for sure. And since then, I don't think there would be anything has happened that will be taking that positioning away as such. I guess that must have got further polarized for them, because there is a very strong emotion sentiment for change, just like Chandra just mentioned. That and this is a weird kind of sentiment, Priya, because normally that change, sentiment for change is associated with the anti-incumbency, that people want to vote out the people who are in power. But this is a very, very weird sentiment for change, which is a double incumbency. Like there is an anti-incumbency against those in power, there is also anti-incumbency than rest of the opposition as well. So it's like, it's a kind of an anti-incumbency against the top two parties of Punjab, that is Congress and the Akalis, if you can read it that way. So strangely, that the sole beneficiary of that sentiment of change is Aam Aadmi Party. Now there are, like, further to complicate the matter, the resurgence of the BJP and Captain Amrinder Singh's unit is also something which was nowhere in the picture 3 months back. When we were talking 3 months back, were we even discussing 3 seats for the BJP Amrinder Singh combined that they are in contest to start with? Forget winning, contest 3 seats. But today, when we are talking, we are looking at the situation where they might be, from Pathankot to Gurdaspur to Jalandhar and then Amritsar and eventually in Patiala. Eventually, they are going to be almost like 30 seats there where they are going to have a good contest on the BJP and Amrinder Singh alliance. And out of those 13, I would like to believe that there would be at least 15 seats there. There would be serious contest. When I say serious contest, that means they would be fighting it out for being number 1 or number 2 kind of situation. Now, those seats are fine, but in remaining seats, if there is Hindu polarization, consolidation for the BJP and Amrinder combined, then Ramnikji is bang on that is going to hurt only the Congress prospect, because let's not forget, it was the Hindu voter which was the decision maker or the kingmaker 5 years back. Congress won because of the Hindu votes, the lead swing of the Hindu votes, just like Ramnikji said. So all said and done, in the last 6 weeks or so, I sense that Congress might be heading for a sort of meltdown, because we could sense in the tracker for 6 weeks after Channiji was made the chief minister, there was a definite upswing, where the BJP, where everybody else went down and Congress stock went up. But then it was Congress infighting Mr. Sidhu, hammering Mr. Channi day in and day out. So we don't know in the last few months if Mr. Channi was more harassed by Mr. Sidhu or rest of the opposition together. So Congress is a bitterly divided house at this point of time, number 1. Number 2, the Hindu vote are certainly in very concentrated pockets they are going, but in rest of if the bleeding of the Hindu votes is in a rest of the pockets, which Ramnik might confirm, if it is so, then it is going to hurt the Congress more. But yes, in spite of all this, there is a very strange upswing for Akalis as well. But that upswing is only in the sense that in many seats where it was Aam Aadmi Party versus Congress, it seems like it is Aam Aadmi Party versus Akalis in many of those seats. I don't know how many those seats would be convertible for Akalis in that way, but I will not be surprised that in the eventual numbers you see instead of Congress, Akalis as the second party in that way. I will not be surprised.
Because take this thought to Ramnikji. Yeah.
But all in all, I agree with Chandar fully on this account that the mood for change might be very asynchronous. At the same time, Aam Aadmi Party is just a symbol. People are unlikely to see the faces, unlikely to see the candidate or CM candidate. When you vote for a change, people generally just vote for the change, lock, stock and barrel. And that is very, very surprising result in favor of Aam Aadmi Party.
Ramnikji, your take and what he said about Akali. We hadn't discussed the Akali vote.
Okay, let me explain this to you. Post this farmer agitation, Aam Aadmi Party was the only party which was gaining ground in Punjab, as opposed to whatever the Congress was trying or the Akali Dal were trying. Despite everything else, they were getting support from all across the communities and in all 3 regions of Punjab, Majha, Malwa and Doaba. So the point is that eventually post the farmers' agitation, a lot of Panthik voter which went against the Akali Dal in 2017 because of the Bay cases, and their, the then government of Prakash Singh Badal was seen wanting in several cases. As a matter of fact, after the firing incident in Kotkapura and Bebel Kalan, where 2 Sikh youth were killed, so there was a rage against the Akali Dal, and in their 100 years of history, this is the least number of seats they got in 2017. So yes, Akali Dal is an underdog in this election. No, not much discussed about them. But again, when you talk about the caste equations, a lot of votes, like I said, would be strategically casted from the scheduled caste communities which are associated with the Deras, number one. Number two, the Jat Sikh vote and the Panthik vote has started to consolidate in favor of the Akali Dal in the last 2.5 weeks. So I see in the last 15 to 20 days, what has happened is that there is a certain consolidation of votes in favor of the Akali Dal in the Malwa belt. Now, in Dwaba and in Majha, I can tell you in Majha, Batala, Dinanagar, Pathankot, Sujanpur, Boha, Amritsar North. These are the seats where the Hindu votes have consolidated in favor of the BJP and PLC alliance. In Dwaba, Jalandhar North, Jalandhar Central, Jalandhar West, Jalandhar Kant, Fagwada, Hoshiarpur and Garshankar. These are the places again which are Hindu dominated, and the voters have consolidated in favor of the BJP and PLC alliance. And in Malwa, SAS Nagar, this is Mohali, Fatehgarh Sahib, Firozpur City, Ludhiana North, Ludhiana Central, Sangrur, Moga, Fazilka and Maud. So again, these are pockets where you have Hindu concentration. And also, not to forget the industrial townships of Ludhiana and certain areas in Jalandhar, Fagwada, where you have migrant labours in very, very large numbers, and they have dominated the municipal corporation elections, the local body elections. So they have also shifted their allegiance from Congress towards the BJP and the PLC. But again, what is more interesting here is that a very, very large chunk of Punjabis have been favoring Aam Aadmi Party. Aam Aadmi Party, with whatever their brand of politics is, have been able to capture the imagination of a very large number of people. And when Chandra says that people want a change, yes, it is correct. People want a change. People are fed up of these conventional parties, the traditional parties, the Akali Dal and the Congress Party. They want a change. It is true. But again, there is a set of people who agree that Punjab would need to work in tandem with the centre because of its financial situation, because of how the industry is, because of what the situation on ground are. See, there is no way any government in Punjab can run the show without the central support, given the circumstances. So there is another set of people who've been convinced that the double engine government formula that Prime Minister Modi gives out would be the best for Punjab. But again, this election, I'm sure Yashwantji would agree with me, is a very, very difficult election to call. You will be able to really, call the election when the numbers start trickling in from the Election Commission on the result day. Even the exit polls would not give you the correct numbers. Tomorrow, the exit polls also will not give you the correct number. Aap baith jao, 8 baje, your numbers will fail you on the 10th. This is how the Punjab's mood is.
I agree. I totally agree. I couldn't agree.
Chandrasudaji, your take on, I think you will also agree, but Akali Dal ke baare mein thoda sa, are they going to be a factor at all?
Yes, certainly. Akali Dal's graph has risen quite a lot in the last few weeks. There's no doubt about that. It will certainly perform better than what it did last time. And also, if it gets between 30-35 seats thereabouts, then in the event of a hung assembly, of course, it will play the role of a kingmaker, depending on what the BJP and that combine, how much they are able to get. And if together these two blocks manage to get about 40-45 seats, then they are within striking range of forming a government with the help of a few independents and maybe breakaway people from the Congress, and all that is very much possible. So already we are seeing people breaking away from the Congress and joining the BJP, stray here and there. I mean, not stray, well, quite a few have in the last few weeks. So that possibility, it all depends on the numbers. And the Akali Dal it is a dark horse, but it has been working silently on the ground. Besides, if you just look at how desperate the situation is for the Akali Dal, because if it doesn't do well in this election, the party is looking at very, very dark days. So you find 94-year-old Prakash Singh Badal going from door to door and canvassing, and I mean the party has just pulled out all stops and trying its best to get there somewhere. But there's just one more point I would like to make, and that is that there's been so much talk that Punjab is heading towards a hung assembly and there is going to be a khichdi sarkar, etc., and that's playing on the minds of the people also. So you will find people discussing in little street corners and chai shops, etc., that we need to have, everyone needs to give a decisive vote so that there is a clear majority. Punjab generally hasn't ever had a hung assembly for many, many years, and there's been a clear mandate always. So if the people are going to vote like this, that, well, we need to give one party a clear majority, in that case, I think the Aam Aadmi Party stands to benefit.
It's also a do or die, Priya, for Akalis. Let's not forget that 5 years back, we do not analyze that much. But Akalis went from pole position to number 3 party. It was I guess that probably just because there was a split in Aam Aadmi Party eventually, and those kind of things happened, they made the headlines. But the crashing of Akali from the pole position to being number 3 was spectacular.
Okay. Quickly, Ramneek ji, because I have to totally
what I would want to add here is to what Chandra said. See, if the Aam Aadmi Party falls short of majority, simple majority, this party will split. I can assure you of that. The people who've got tickets, they've purchased tickets. There are people who've paid even 10 crore rupees to get the ticket. So these people would want to get their money out in case they don't get a share in the government. And I personally feel, and that's my opinion, if Aam Aadmi Party falls short of majority, the party which is more susceptible to break away into factions is the Aam Aadmi Party. Your take, Yashwantji.
I cannot say that, but what I feel that I genuinely feel that when we talk about change of guard or change of sentiment for change, I kind of agree with Chandra that people generally in India are giving clear verdicts. I somehow feel that because of the very typical.
What about Maharashtra then?
I'm coming to that. You see?
I'm totally out of time. So.
In Maharashtra, it was a clear mandate for Shiv Sena and BJP. They won the election together. Yeah. It was the post-election split. But yes, I agree with you, Ramneek, that it is the regional weirdness of Punjab political equations. That might make Aam Aadmi falling short of majority even after such huge sentiment for the change. Because what I can sense is that, they might poll one way in Malwa, then in Majha, and even lesser in Doaba. So Punjab is polling like 3 different states with 3 different combinations in each and every region.
Very good.
That might be a positive. That I totally agree with you. That will create trouble for Aam Aadmi Party. But if they cross the line, then they are dry enough.
Thank you. Very comprehensive conversation. And as we said, the state of Punjab is really a state to watch. Always has been one of my favorite states. And this election is proving that is really nobody can predict what's happening in Punjab till the very last minute. But thank you all for this conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.